Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another Retro Adventures. And this time I would like to present this, the Lost Caverns of Tsojcanth. Now, I'm not going to try and pronounce that again. As long-time viewers of the channel know, I have a minor speech impediment and I do have difficulty saying certain words, especially ones I haven't heard said to me before. But this is just a made-up word and I've been stumbling over it for ages. So I've said it, we will speak of it never again. Now, this is the first published adventure by Gygax, by TSR. But it's not as widely available as some, because this was a tournament adventure published in 1976, and only about 300 copies were printed. It was later rewritten and released as a proper module in 1982, I believe. But this is the original version for tournaments. Now, I've been lucky enough to play in some tournaments, not official ones at gaming conventions, but we were lucky enough to have in our group a proper registered tournament games master, or dungeon master, who ran some of the tournament adventures for us under tournament rules. And it's very different to normal role-playing. It definitely emphasises the gaming part more than it emphasises the role-playing part. Because you're playing these characters once off, so you're not really getting time to get a grasp of what the character's personality is like, especially in this where they are barely mentioned. But you are trying for a high score. You're trying to win. The very thing that we've always said about role-playing games, there is no winner. In convention games, tournament dungeons, there are winners. But anyway, this was a tournament dungeon. Now, as I've mentioned in previous videos, Gygax didn't really believe that people would be interested in settings, so he never really published Greyhawk or allowed Blackmoor to be published early on, and he didn't think people would want adventures. But this, he did think that people could play against one another and could be scored. So a bunch of the adventure goes into mentioning how you can't get the exact same experience out, but the adventure tries to set it up as fairly as possible. So it starts off with a description. Several decades ago, when the Archmage Iglwiliv brought the marches of Piranland under his domination, considerable store of treasure was taken from that place and sequestered by him somewhere in the no man's land, between the Duchy of Jeff and the forsaken Sea of Dust. So the players are looking for this. They're going to be searching for this treasure. And it goes in and it mentions, these are the pre-made characters that people are going to be playing. Cathartic, a 7th level cleric. Ethelred, a human fighter of the 8th level. I really like that old way of talking about so-and-so of the 8th level. They mention it in the Mazes and Monsters game where they are of the level. It sounds far more interesting than the mathematically right a 7th level thief or whatever. But anyway, a human fighter of the 8th level, a Flemin, a 6th level dwarf fighter, Dusil, a hobbit thief of the 9th level, Weslock, an elf fighter magic user, 4th 9th level, Hockabrecht, a half-elf fighter magic user thief of 4th 5th level. Thanks Gary Gygax for the design of this dungeon and other people. The current situation. You're a member of a group of 6 adventurers met by chance some weeks ago. Each was seeking the caverns. Each possessed what seems to be a fragment of information regarding them. Together you have compiled what seems to be an accurate set of directions to the entrance of these caverns. So it's why your groups come together. They're cooperating with the little bits of information they've got. But there's no other reason for the party really being together. We've got referee's notes. It has a section here on the magic swords. We'll come into it later when we have a look at the character sheets. But there's 2 intelligent swords in the party, and it mentions that these swords will quarrel if they're not both involved in combat at the same time. We've got a section on combat, wandering monsters, the second round, so the second level, change information, how healing is handled, guidelines for the selection of the best player. They must be active before passive, thinking, reasoning before rash, bold before timid, uninjured before wounded, alive before dead, leader before follower. Now, for a role-playing game, 6 people fighting to be the leader really doesn't help the group. If you can choose a leader and people will play being followers, that's a really normal way of playing and completely acceptable in role playing. That your character is the sneaky thief who's not the leader of the group, but will obey the mighty warrior in return for protection. But in a tournament game, nope, everybody's trying to be the leader, everybody's trying to be the best and most unwounded person. We've got some maps, so the Greater Caverns, obviously drawn just with pen on gridded paper. You can just make out the grid from sort of mathematics paper, you would call it over here in the UK. The Lesser Caverns, so the sort of lower level. And then we're on to the descriptions. Now this is very small text, but it's not actually that interesting. I thought it was going to be much more like the Dave Arneson Blackmore adventure, which detailed what rooms were like and helped build it up. But not at all. Although it starts that way, we've got room 1, the main entrance. The large cave is high vaulted, 30 feet at least, and the roof is hung with some stalactites. But a few stalagmites are on the floor. On the right-hand wall, before a tunnel in the right place, there is a face in base relief. The visage is rather horrid and doleful, and it carries on. You know, a voice speaks, turn back, this is not the way. And there's some treasure they can acquire there. But that's the only room which is really detailed. Room 2. Ceiling of the river tunnel lowers water level in 90. When the party reaches this spot, they must turn back. And we've got other things. Wooden boat appears normal, but it is magic. Section J. 2 fired lizards. A mated pair, but ferocity, if either is harmed, does not apply. So it's just detailing the monsters, detailing the treasures. There's not much information just about what traps. So the Games Master doesn't read a description of the room, and the players must work out, well, there's something about the floor, let's pay attention to that. They just walk into an area and the Games Master has to wing it. Rock pile. Even a cursory examination will reveal that this jumble hides a passage. That's all it says. It doesn't say rocks and what happens if they search it. It just tells you automatically. Carrying on is more descriptions like that. It does have a nice bit, the graven glyphs here. Read this verse to the players before starting the second level. In the centre lies the gate, but opening is sure to vex. Many are the guards who wait as you go to the middle hex. Band only seat to find a way back to a different iron door. A 7th time you may stay and seek this prize no more. You have won my choicest prize, my warded cache of magic, and freed the one yearning eyes whose lot was hunger tragic. So a nice little rhyme there, giving people clues, but every other room is just D, Umberhulk. The monster will be at the spur in the northern end of the cavern. Dimensional shift room. Every 3 rounds the cavern shifts from Y dimension to Z. Initial setting will be determined by the entry of the party from the northern passageway. Not describing the room at all. Nothing useful here beyond the actual mechanics of the game. And that's what's coming clear, that tournament games from the very beginning, from this first one by Gary Gygax, is very mechanical. It's concentrating on the rules of the game and how to score it to win the tournament. Carry on, detailing through things. I've skipped past, there's a copper dragon in one of the rooms, which I thought was quite strong for such a low-level party, but it's only a copper dragon that I suppose the players can win. And then we're on, after all the descriptions, 2 lists of monsters. So 4 blink dogs, 20 sturges. There's some artwork there. Different creatures. Greater Cavern 0 and Greater Cavern FH. Again with the creatures, their hit bonus, their move, their attacks, the different hit points each get. Very reminiscent of Palace of the Vampire Queen, in just laying out the creatures without giving a description or anything. This is so different from Dave Arneson's one, which was far more descriptive. This is back to what I would consider I would have probably written myself in the early 80s when I was writing out an adventure, because I would know what the rooms looked like, so I wouldn't write that description down. I would just write down the rule stuff I needed. Character versus monster hit damage matrix. The second level monsters, so that bronze dragon, so it's bronze not copper, with 80 hit points, 2 claws, 1 bite, and a breathe. Character monster hit damage matrix turned a different way. And then we've got the player characters. Now if I rotate this and change, and we can see this a bit clearer. Now we've got player number 1, Cathartic, lawful good cleric, 7th level. And we've got a list of equipment. It's quite interesting. It's not just magic items. We've got some Wolf's Bane, a silver mirror, tinderbox, wineskin, iron rations. Player 2, Ethelred. They've got a +4 shield, which seems quite powerful for an 8th level character. A +1 magical axe. Carrying on through, we've got Fleming, a lawful good dwarf, fighter 6th level. He doesn't appear to have any magical items. Player number 4, Dunil, the new hobbit 9th level thief. Again, doesn't really seem to have any magical items. And then we're on to players 5 and 6, who have the intelligent swords. So Weslock here, a neutral elf 4th level fighter, 9th level magic user, has a dancing sword with a level 11 intelligence, 10 ego. It speaks common, elvish, dwarvish, reads magic, detects evil and good, locates secret doors, notes shifting walls and rooms. Which is very useful because one of the descriptions we just read out was a shifting room. Player number 6, Hockerbrecht, the half-elf 4th level fighter, 4th level magic user, 5th level thief. And he has a magic sword +2 with an 11 intelligence and a 12 ego. Speaks common, elvish, hill giant, bronze dragon. Very useful because you're going to be encountering a bronze dragon. It reads magic, detects shifting walls and rooms, flying, detects secret doors, sees invisible, and detects gems. And that's the end of the adventure. It's a basic dungeon with very little description, not much story, just a list of what you find in each room, be it monster or treasure, with a couple of descriptions in there for the first chamber and the first chamber of the second level. It's not that impressive, especially for Gary Gygax's first adventure. There's just not too much here. But the very first adventure written standalone by a TSR member in 1976. So this is the very dawn of role-playing. But, as I said, Blackmore had a far better adventure. This is very much of the standard of the Palace of the Vampire Queen. So it's weird to see that writing adventures was taking off in 2 directions. You were getting Dave Arneson's more story-focused one, where you were discovering what the rooms were for and what would happen in them. So you could easily work out guard patrol routes and where people would be called from other rooms and things. And the way the players could take advantage of these rooms. Whereas Palace of the Vampire Queen and this adventure, avoiding naming it, are very much just, here's the rules, get on with it. But anyway, as usual, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough. So thank you very much for watching, as always. But most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.